The Central Bank of Nigeria has directed all commercial banks in the country to bring back into circulation the old 200 naira notes and make same available to their customers. This followed the approval of President Muhammadu Buhari in a nationwide broadcast Thursday, where he stated that the decision was meant to ease the cash supply pressure witnessed in recent time on account of naira redesign. The old 200 naira note will remain a legal tender until 10th of April this year. Also, on the Naira redesign policy, the CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, earlier in the week met with members of the diplomatic community. We have more on these stories in today's package, plus a flashback to the January MPC meeting press briefing Q&A session. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Well, the truth is this, we are all servants. We are serving Nigerians. As far as I'm concerned, the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation has spoken on this matter, and the President has sealed the whole of the issues this morning in his broadcast. And I think I can only just appeal to Nigerians, let's allow this policy to work. This policy is one policy that goes to solve the problem of reducing corruption and illicit financial flows. This policy goes to resolve some of the problems in the economy. This problem also goes to reducing the level of insecurity in the country. So these three issues, which are the tripod of this administration's policy, are all embedded in this policy. We should just allow it to work. We keep saying this. There are some temporary pains, but I can assure Nigerians that the long-run benefit to Nigeria is overwhelming, and we should just give it a chance to work.
So what should we expect from the CBN following the presidential directives?
The President has given his directives. I have met with about 15 banks this morning, later, and we've given them directives about how they should make all the old 200 naira notes available.
That was Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, addressing State House correspondents at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, Thursday, after it was determined that the old 200 naira note should be allowed to circulate as legal tender, along with the new 200, 500, and 1,000 naira banknotes to ease the supply pressure on Nigerians. Earlier on Tuesday, 14th of February, the CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, met with members of the diplomatic and consular missions in the country on the recent monetary policy decisions of the bank. The event, which held at the Rotunda Hall, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, provided the opportunity for the governor to clarify contextual realities that shaped the decisions of the bank and to illuminate future expectations.
Currency management is a key function of Central Bank of Nigeria as enshrined in Section 2, subsection B of the Central Bank of Nigeria Act 2007. Indeed, the integrity of a local tender, the efficiency of its supply, as well as its efficacy in the conduct of monetary policy are some of the hallmarks of a great central bank. Due to persistent challenges that are inundating currency management in Nigeria and undermining our sovereign integrity, the CBN conducted extensive in-house analysis and consultation, which suggests the need for a policy to redesign some of the Nigerian banknotes. The currency redesign policy is also consistent with Section 20, subsection 3 of our Act, which gives the bank the power to recall extant banknotes or coins following the approval of the President and a reasonable notice period. Our actions thus fall squarely within the bounds of the powers provided by the CBN Act, as we sought and got presidential approval and gave 100 days notice in the first instance, which was later extended by another 10 days. This was to allow Nigerians to deposit their old banknotes at the CBN and gradually redeem the new notes. As I have reiterated many times before today, the general practice across the globe is for central banks to redesign national currency within 5 to 8 years. From the onset of this currency redesign program, we made it very clear that for over 19 years, the Central Bank of Nigeria has not been able to undertake this important currency and liquidity management function that has important ramifications for the effectiveness of monetary policy. Why the design? Our principal aim with the currency redesign initiative is to make monetary policy decisions more efficacious. Like I said earlier, the cashless policy started in 2012 under my predecessor. Between 2012 or between 2014 and now that I've been governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, we had made at least 5 reversals at our attempts to really deepen cashless and improve the level of financial inclusion in Nigeria. The reason we did those was because we felt that there was a need for us to deepen a payment system infrastructure. And I know and we have facts to support the fact that the payment system infrastructure in Nigeria is amongst the best 6 in the world today. So we believe that we have put in place enough infrastructure that will help us attain or achieve the cashless policy that we do aim to attain in line with global best practices. Secondly, we aim to increase financial inclusion in the country by reducing the number of the unbanked population. Thirdly, our aim is to support the effort of our security agencies in combating banditry and ransom taking in Nigeria through this program, and we can see that the military are making good progress in this important task. In the last 5-6 years, we have Central Bank of Nigeria came up with a policy where we said that banks must report what is called suspicious transactions. Suspicious transactions, once there's cash transaction or even electronic transactions that go beyond a particular threshold, banks must report them as suspicious transactions. And what happened is that when suspicious transactions are reported by banks to the NFIU, the FCC and ICPC are obligated to pick those suspicious transactions and investigate them. But of course, what we found is that in the course of investigating them, those who felt that they were being investigated for those suspicious transactions began to abandon the banks and began to build vaults in their homes. That is the reason we've seen currency outside the banking industry at 2.72 trillion out of 3.23 trillion. Generally, currency design policies are designed by countries to strengthen the performance of key macroeconomic parameters and equally combat social improprieties. Chiefly, it is expected to reduce the amount of cash in underground and illicit economy, truncate activities of racketeers, and obliterate rent-seeking businesses in the black market. By reducing currency outside banks, it will shrink money stock and accordingly lower the long-run path of inflation. The ensuing deflationary pressure could elicit interest rate cuts that will, in short to medium term, boost economic activities, spur aggregate demand, and enhance output growth. Macroeconomic impacts of currency design are multidimensional and could seem uncertain, especially at this early stage when its inconvenience is widespread. By spurring more people to use bank accounts, this policy will further increase bank account ownership and increase the use of accounts by enhancing people's saving behavior. It could encourage some hitherto informal business operators to formalize the pattern of transactions and adopt more formal settlement channels.
Thanks for staying tuned. You're watching from the CBN, a weekly program that brings to you reports and expert analysis of the actions, policies, events, and economic initiatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. Latest report from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that inflation rate in Nigeria rose to 21.82% in January, a 0.47% increase when compared to the 21.34% recorded in December. The slight uptick in inflationary pressure justifies the tight monetary policy stance maintained by the CBN Monetary Policy Committee at its last meeting. Here's a flashback to the January MPC meeting press briefing question and answer session.
The first question says that that we've seen inflation dropping for the first time in almost about 10-11 months to about 31.34% by December, and whether this is a positive enough sign for us to expect inflation to trend lower in the coming months. Our response here is that yes, we're happy that some of the policies that we've introduced in the last couple of months in our attempt to rein in inflation are beginning to yield results. Not just about plateauing, but also beginning to drop. But Monetary Policy Committee members feel that a 10 basis point drop from 21.47% to 21.34% is just not good enough as a reason to begin to celebrate. That's year on year, but on the basis of month-on-month CPI, we still found out that inflation was still going up, both the headline and all that. On year basis, we saw food coming down, but at the same time, we still saw core inflation moving up. For us, it is not time to celebrate yet. MPC believes that, and you could see from the communique I read, we said, of course, loosening, and we use the word in the meeting, throw loosening into the Atlantic Ocean. Hold, well, keep it in the dustbin and let's watch. But of course, for now, it is tightening. The issue therefore was, to what extent should we tighten? Should we begin to say because inflation had begun to trend downwards that we should moderate the rate of tightening? Or that, listen, this is not enough sign and that we should remain aggressive? If you recall, rates were aggressive in 2022 for the last 4 meetings. The first one was 100 basis points, the second one 150 basis points, the third 100, and the fourth another 100. But those who felt that there is a need for us to remain aggressive felt that with inflation at 21.34%, it's already hurting growth and is moderating the level of output that we would have seen if inflation was within our own target range. You know, these days we have not even been able to talk about a target range of between 7 and 10%. And at 21.4, there was no how inflation, we can begin to celebrate that inflation at 21.34% is good enough for us to begin to taper and the rest of them.
Good afternoon, Mr. Governor. My name is Leah Katumba-Batunde from the Nigerian Television Authority. I have 2 questions for you. The first is the debate around the ways and means borrowing, which the National Assembly is already trying to intervene or sort of chart some course. Can you provide us with a form of clarification on what the true picture is? And secondly is another issue that has been in the news, stamp duties. If you could give us an update on it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the central bank is banker to government and also a lender of last resort to government. Since 2015, when this administration came on board, we have seen 2 recessions. We have seen, at least, aside from recession, global crisis, at least 2. We have been confronted COVID-19 pandemic. We have seen situations where at some point in 2020, crude price came down below $20 a barrel. Revenues from crude sales dropped badly. We feel as CBN, because we are a lender of last resort, that it will be irresponsible for us to sit idle. It will be a dereliction in our responsibilities and duties as lender of last resort to ignore the government and allow the economy and our Nigerians to suffer. Ladies and gentlemen, what we did by lending to government as banker and lender of last resort is normal in any part of the world, particularly when countries face crisis. Any central bank, any Fed will do what we have done. So that is why I'm appealing to those who are exaggerating the import behind ways and means to please take it easy with us. Take it easy with us, and I believe by the special grace of God, since the President has written to the National Assembly, they will eventually give approval and CBN can now securitize this. That is the story on ways and means. Now on stamp duty. The truth is that the CBN will not be joined in any argument with anybody because it will overheat the system. But it is important for us to say that stamp duty is a revenue that needs to be collected for people who are conducting electronic transactions or stamp duty payments and all that. So it is about public accounts and public accountability. So that also means that we owe Nigerians the true situation about how much has been collected or not collected. So that is the only reason I'll be talking about it. Otherwise, I don't want to make any statement that would overheat the system. But the history behind stamp duty is this. Stamp duty, like you all, people buy stamps those days. That's the real digital stamps of those days. But over time, we saw a reduction in the revenue coming from analog stamp duty, the paper stamp duty coming into government. So NIPOST in 2012 engaged some consultants. In 2012, I wasn't the governor, it was Lamido Sanusi. They came to the CBN and told them that they had a mandate to do electronic collection of stamp duties. At that time, there was no law backing it. So CBN said there was no law. For that reason, they would not force the banks. In 2014, towards the end of 2014, when I became governor, they came back and we also gave them the same explanation that we couldn't collect stamp duties because there was no law to back the collection. In 2015, they went to court. Around end of 2015, they got a court judgment. In spite of the fact that there was no law backing it, they got a court judgment forcing central bank to force the banks to begin to collect stamp duty. Afraid that I could be accused of contempt, we took the risk as CBN to write to the banks a circular saying, start collecting stamp duty. Some large customers who are into FMCG products protested and went to court. As I speak, some of those cases are still in court today. But in spite of that, we have continued to force and compel the banks that they must collect this stamp duty or electronic money transfer fees. So it is therefore very, I don't understand how the central bank that started forcing the banks in 2016 to collect stamp duty because we feel that it is a source of revenue generation for the country, how that same central bank can begin to withhold 89 trillion. So that it beats our imagination that those kind of arguments can come up. Ladies and gentlemen, 89 trillion is so large. The total asset, if you understand accounting, the total asset of the banking industry today is about 71 or 71.5 trillion. The total deposit of the banking system today is 44.498 trillion. So how then is it possible that stamp duty, which is 89 trillion, that is twice the deposit of banks, how possible is that? And I truly don't understand. I just don't understand. So when it became some stories everywhere, we went into our records. We told banking supervision, banking payment system, please go into the system and rake out the total amount that has been collected on stamp duty from 2015 to date, 2016 to date. We told our people in banking supervision, contact the banks. Now, let the banks give us from their record how much they have collected on stamp duty from 2016 to date. And you know what? Tell the banks on their headed paper, they should sign that this is the amount they have collected on stamp duty from the 2016 to date. The report that we have in CBN is this. Is 370 billion 686 million 315,505 naira 28 kobo. Out of that, FIRS has disbursed through FAC, or Ministry of Finance has disbursed to FAC 226 billion 451 million 720,158 naira 88 kobo. And the balance in the account in CBN is 144 billion 234 million 595,346 naira 40 kobo.
That's all from the CBN this week. Report on resolved banking issues to the CBN Consumer Protection Department using the email cpd@cbn.gov.ng. Attach relevant documents. Call the CBN Contact Center on the phone line +234 700 2255 226. Local call rates may apply. Write to us through the email address from the cbn@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter for updates and to watch uploaded episodes of the program. We invite you to join us again next time. I'm Muliye Misi Dada. Stay safe. Bye for now.